Greetings everyone. This is Dan Rosenthal, CIS 110 instructor. It has come to my attention that some of the instructions for this week's assignment, which is create a flyer, are mainly targeted towards the desktop local version of Microsoft Word. This would be the version of Word that you actually have installed on your computer, that type of application. It's the classic Word. What a lot of you are telling me that you're using, which makes perfect sense, is Microsoft 365. And so Word 365, which is how I'll usually call it, has a little bit different of a feature set for its design in Word. It's a little trimmed down. It's a little streamlined. It has some features removed. So I wanted to create a quick video to discuss how we can create the flyer for this week's assignment using Microsoft 365. So if we look here, you'll see that this is the preview that you have for that flyer in the course. It's a wash your hands poster. And what I want to do is go through the steps to create this. Now let me say first, one feature that is not available in Microsoft 365 is the page border feature. So you can see around the edges here, there's a green border that goes around all the text and all the entire document. That can be done in 365, but it requires a few little tricks using a drawing type feature, and we don't really need it for this. So the things that we're going to be covering in creating this flyer are the things that are included in understanding basic Word, a lot of the text formatting type things. Okay, so let's switch over to Microsoft 365, and I've got a blank Word document, or I started with a blank Word document. I now have put text in. It's in its raw form, and it is essentially me just typing the text that appears on the screen in the preview. So what we need to do, let's take a look back here at our flyer example first. We need to do a few things. First of all, we have this headline up here, which is the title of the document. It's the sentence, wash your hands, in all caps. Then we've got a paragraph here describing why washing your hands is a good idea. Then we have the how section, which is a numbered list. Numbered lists are used to describe a list of things that you need to do in that order that they're described, 1 through 5 in this case. We have an image in the middle. Then we have the when list, which is a bulleted list. A bulleted list is a list of items or things, lines of text that are in no real particular order. So they can be done in any order, or they're stated to you in any order. They're just a list of things. At the very bottom, there's one last line, which is kind of a closing line. It has a link to a website called foodworkers.com. And then this signature line, which really we will just mimic by underlining that text. It's basically just a closing line. It's often actually signature line is used for signing something. So we'll just mimic that. All right, let's get started. So the first thing we will do is create this wash your hands headline. That is one of the features in particular that is very different or excluded from Microsoft Word 365. Word 365. So let me do this. Let me grab this text right here, wash your hands. And notice when I grab text, you'll get the quick formatting tool. It went away because I moved off the text. I'm going to actually grab this wash your hands text, and I'm going to cut it out of the document using, in my case, Command X, but also Control X on Windows will work fine. I've now cut that text to the clipboard, because what I'm going to do here is I'm going to come up in my ribbon on my tabs, and I'm going to come to the Insert tab. In 365, you have a number of similar items as normal, good old-fashioned Word. What I want to put in here is a drawing. And the drawing will actually be able to contain the text, and I'll be able to get the green background. Before I do that, I'm noticing something. I'm noticing that my text here, starting with the word washing, has this distance from here to here. Also on this side, I've got distance from here to here. If we look up here on the ruler, these are the margins of the document. We can see the left indent here, and we can see the right indent here. I want this to look a little more like the flyer does if we notice this border comes a lot closer to the edge of the document. So let's make a quick change before we do any editing. I'm going to come back here and I'm going to go to the Layout tab. And on the far left, I've got margins. Now I can adjust these very specifically using indent and spacing. I can come down to custom margins. So I can set up things very specifically. But what I want to do here is switch out of the normal margins, which are 1 inch all the way around, and switch to the narrow version. And watch what happens when with the text when I do that. Immediately our text has moved closer to the top and the sides. That's how I want to go about creating this document. So I wanted to do that before I put in this picture or this drawing here. So let's put in a drawing. I'm going to click the drawing button. This is the screen you'll see to interface with creating drawings. Now, it's not just drawings. You can actually insert shapes, a text box, a picture. You can come to the Draw tab and draw freely using different pen types. So even though it is a drawing feature inside the Insert tab, I'm going to actually, in this case, choose a text box. Now, when I do that, I'm given this tool. This is my work area. So what you do is you create the item first, and then it is brought over into your document. So I'm going to create a rectangle, as if we were going to make the rectangle for the headline in the example document. And inside that, notice I've already got a text cursor blinking because I chose a text box. And in my clipboard, I still have the words wash your hands. So I'm going to paste that. And there it is. It's now pasted inside this. I need to work on this text now. So the very first thing we'll do is resize the text. This is one of the most basic skills in working with text in Word. When I highlight this, or when I am selected with these little circles, I can choose either shape or text. In this case, I want to move to text, where I can then see my classic text editing features. Now, I know that this text, if you come to this list, these are fonts that are included, and then you can actually do a show more. This text is Rockwell. So I'm going to choose that. Now, you can't quite see the dramatic change there just yet, but if I come here, whoops, let me select the text again. If I come here and move this up to 36-point text, now we can see that it looks quite a bit more like the text that's at the top of this page. Okay. Now that I've got that selected, I can now work on the shape. And in this case, I can choose the shape fill, the outline. I can even change the shape if I want. The outline in this case, I want to make sure that there's no outline, because in the original example, there's no border. That's another way to say it, is the border. So that is now set to no outline. And you can see the colors here in the preview. The shape fill right now is set to a dark orange. I'm going to come in here to the colors, and I am going to choose this green right here, this dark green. Okay. So if we're looking again over here, it may not be the exact same green, but we'll be okay with that for now. Here's our dark green background, black text. I need to make sure that it matches the white text on green background. So let me come in here. I will move back to my text tab, and I will select this. Let me also I see there's an extra space at the end of the sentence. Let me select this again. And now I'm coming over here to text color, which is already set for red. I don't really want red. I want to come in here and choose white. Now the text is white. I can drag these handles or controllers here to reshape the shape. But if you look and notice, this text is left aligned. That's the default. I need it to match my example, which is center aligned. So I come back in here, select my text, and over here I've got, whenever you see the grouping of lines like that, it usually implies alignment. Text alignment, I will choose center. Now clicking outside of the whole thing, I've got something that looks pretty much like our example. Okay, we can continue to edit it further a bit. What I will do here is save and close. That will close this drawing tool or the drawing editor. And now we'll see that it appears in our document. We have our margins set wider, so it goes basically the width of the document, margin to margin, and it's centered inside. Great. Okay, so let's leave that for now. And now let's work on some of the other formatting inside the document. The first thing to maybe do is notice that there's a paragraph, a list here, a little word in front of that, a list here, a word in front of that, and then a single line separated by an image. So let's come in here and just get things a little bit separated for our visual purposes. We know that that goes down there. We know that this goes a bit down there, right? And off screen, which I will change my zoom here a bit to fit the entire screen. Good. This last line will come down a bit from there. Now, we don't need it to fit in here entirely just yet because we're going to be changing the text sizes throughout, which will make things push down as well as the placement of the image. Let's take a quick peek. If we look at this right here, right now, this headline, it looks to be a similar size to our headline here. Okay, so looking at that in comparison to this text, the text is very small. So what I think we will do first off is change all of the text in one shot to a larger size. And so I will just select all the text and I will come up here and I will choose size 20. Okay, now, as you can see, if I scroll, these other lines have gone off into the next page. So let me come back up here and I'm actually going to undo what I just did, which will leave everything still selected. So that's convenient. And then I will come here and choose size 18. Let's see how that does. Okay, it still is pulling things off to the bottom. So just to start then, let's leave it selected and we'll just choose 16. Okay, good. Everything fits on the page. We can work with it a little further. This space in here is not quite set yet anyway. Okay, so first let's come back here and look. We've got a bit of a paragraph that describes why washing your hands is important. If you notice and look closely in here, washing your hands with soap and water can decrease outbreaks of foodborne illness because it can prevent, notice that this word is in italics, or it's italicized, prevent spreading germs from your hand to food. For that, we will need to address that, which we can do right now. Double-click the text. My quick editor pops up, and I just choose italic. Let's look at another thing here. Notice that the W of washing is not out to the outer edge of this document. It actually starts here inside this headline, and the end of the word decrease ends here inside the headline. So the margins of this paragraph are different than what is being applied to the margins of this headline. We can adjust margins specific to specific text on the page. So if I were to highlight this whole paragraph, notice that my margins did not change compared to what they were before. But I can now drag, and when you're changing the left indent versus the hanging indent or the first line indent, the whole indent, you grab the bottom rectangle of that little 3 icon grouping. What I'm going to do here is move this out to about there. And what I'm going to do on the right is move this to about here. And notice what we've got now. We've got a different margin that's being applied to just this paragraph. And in fact, if we want to try to match where it goes, washing to decrease and outbreaks to prevent, we can take this and bump this up by a size. And notice what's happened here. We've got exactly that same spacing of the text as we do in the example image. Decrease is the word at the wrap, and so is prevent. And if we wanted to adjust just a bit, because we felt like this was off to the left a bit, which is what my eyes were seeing, we would just select this text again and adjust its margin, in particular, probably the left indent coming in, and that moves the whole thing over a touch. I might even hit that just a tiny bit more. Okay, so you can see how that works. This can be centered and set up the way you like it. All right, let's leave that for a minute. This text has now gotten a touch larger. Okay, we've got two parts to this document that are lists. One is an ordered list, which is numbered list, and one is an unordered list, which is a bullet list. We're going to set this up for an ordered list right now. Do not include the first word, which is the how. Select all the lines here, all 5 lines, and come up here in our Home tab to our paragraph format group, where we can see numbered lists and bullet lists. And there are some variations if you do the pull down arrow. We're just going to choose the standard numbered list. Notice what happens. It gets a little tighter together and it moves the list, it gives it a separate indent that comes inwards a bit. If we look, the 1 is straight under the W of how, and it's pretty close to the same here. So that looks good. Let's now come down here for these 5 items and make a bulleted list. Same place, paragraph group on the Home tab, bullets. Did the same thing. So we have how and when, and we have the details around that. Down here, the last line. First of all, it is centered on the page. It is green, so we will be looking at a color for that text. And this one section is underlined. Let's handle the underline first because that's easy. Additional hand washing tips. I'm selecting that text. I get my quick edit tool popping up and I just choose underline. Then selecting the whole sentence, I can then come up here to my paragraph section and choose center alignment, which puts it in the middle. Okay. This foodworkers.com is a link. Now, in some cases, I've seen that both Microsoft Word, the standard Word, and Word 365 will automatically create a hyperlink here. I'm going to just copy this text. Actually, I can do it right from here. So if I right-click on this text, I can come here to the link, choose this arrow, and I will just insert the link. And I'm going to... That's the display text. I could change that so that on the page it just says food link or foodworkers.com. But what we'll do here inside this setup screen here is we'll copy, come down here and paste. And now the link is the same as what appears on the screen. And notice what we've got. Now, of course, this is a flyer. If you deliver this electronically, the link will work. If you print it and stick it on a telephone pole, you can't click the link, obviously. So, but I want you to see how a link is inserted there. That is now an active link, which will take you to foodworkers.com. Notice if I'm hovering, it tells me what it'll do. Okay, so we've got all our text in here. We've got our header. The last element to put in physically is our photo. And let me do this before I do that. I'm going to tighten things up down here at the bottom a bit because the photo is going to add some space or take up some space. And let me move this up and this down. Whoops, down one more click. Now we've got a pretty wide space to put the photo. I'm dropping my cursor here in the middle, just in the middle of this empty space. I'm coming up to the Insert tab where it's the same place I inserted a drawing for a text box. Here I'm going to insert a picture. And I just click Picture. There's different places to pull images from. This device, OneDrive, mobile device. You can also look for stock images. Now if I choose stock images here, it brings me up a screen where I see a lot of different photos. I can actually type in wash hands here and see what comes up. Notice there's a bunch of images that I could use. These are stock images. Okay. In our case, I have an image ready to go. It's delivered with the assignment. So I'm going to come here to Picture and I'm going to choose this device. And I am going to come to my Documents folder. And there is Washing Hands JPEG. And I will put that in. And once it renders, we see that it actually takes up a good amount of space because the size of the image itself is in a larger size than we need it. So to resize the image, I just come to one of these corners on the image with it selected. If I were unselected, it would look like this. If I select it with a single click, it looks like this. I will move this in, and notice it's keeping the same shape of the rectangle. So it's keeping the same dimensions, the relative dimensions. If I want to double check how this looks, the first thing I might do actually here, now that it's still selected, is I'll come to the Home tab and back to my Paragraph tab. Alignments work also with placed images and shapes. So I'm going to align this to be in the center. I'm going to pull up a little bit of the white space above it by just sitting above it and backspace deleting. I'm going to pull up some of the space below it to make sure everything's fitting. Now, just to compare the size between this and our example, it's pretty close. That example and the image are almost the same. I'm going to say that's fine. We've also got pretty good spacing near the bottom. That looks like food workers line is a little closer to the bottom of our bulleted list than we have it. But I'm actually going to leave this where it is because that's pretty good spacing. I'm going to see if I can pull one more line space out of this how. And at that point, I might take this and bump this up one notch. Again, I'm just tweaking some of the settings. I'm still highlighted here. I'm going to move my left indent over a touch and my right indent over a touch, hoping to see if I can get the word decrease to pop out to the right again, as I just did. Okay, now I feel like I've got a pretty good layout. I need to bring this up one notch, and there's a pretty good overall layout. Let's do the final touches. One, or I should say the first one, this text is green, so let's highlight this text, and let's come up here to our font group where default red is our starting point. Let's see if we can make it a contrasting color, hopefully not too ugly. We'll try this dark green right here. Okay, it's not my favorite. I'm going to go back and I'm going to come here and we'll choose basically the same color as we have up above. Okay, down here, same thing. I'm going to highlight this whole line. And it's already set for that same color, so I'm just going to click there. Okay, it did make the link green instead of blue, which is fine. And notice that this is not a link, it's just our underlined. This list looks good, this list looks good. We have one last thing to do, which is style the picture a bit. If I single click and select the picture, I then get this picture tab. Sometimes when you have specific things in your document, specific elements, this is across all the Microsoft products, you'll get a custom tab for that thing. In this case, it's a picture. So because I've selected a picture, I can do various things like height and width. I can crop, I can wrap text around it, I can rotate, I can put a border on it. If we look at the example, there's no border, but there is one of these styles. There's a cut corners and a shadow. Now, in the regular Word desktop, there's a whole bunch more styles than are available here. But notice when I selected this, I got this picture styles pane. You can look through and select a bunch of different things. There's two in here that are close. This one here is a perspective, meaning it's looking like it's angled a little bit with a shadow behind it. And then this one is close to the example where the corners are just snipped off. When I select that, it processes and will give us something of a version of what we see on this page. I'm noticing one thing, which is our bulleted list below is a little tighter above, up to the picture, so we can just move that up a bit. And at this point, we have essentially recreated, let me see if I can compare these two. Here's our hand washing picture there. Here's our flyer example here. We have gotten a pretty good comparison between the two using Microsoft Word instructions here and Word 365 here. So please go ahead and use these techniques. The techniques that we just did cover the most basics for creating a flyer, working with text and pictures. There are many more, and we're going to work further on some additional techniques in other assignments. Thanks so much for learning these techniques.